Good morning, this is Kamera. We're on day number 129, First Chronicles chapter 25 through 27. Okay, so what we're talking about is more duties or particular duties that were appointed to Levites. For instance, David and his commanders had appointed musicians to play different instruments while the word of God was proclaimed. Also, musicians who played when they were to play before the Lord. And so these positions were allotted by families. And so there were 24 lots, 24 families. They had terms of service, regardless of the age or their positions. And they were very well trained in performing for the Lord. Isn't that awesome? And then it talked about the gatekeepers. The gatekeepers, more like the guard, they had guard duties. Again, that right there, those were by positions as well, as far as this family was in charge of the north, east, south, west. And they were well-trained, capable men, and they were, again, by families. Okay, so you had some who were in charge of, like I said, the east, the southwest. They mentioned Obed-Edom being a part of the south, the south section. And he was cool about him was they mentioned how he was richly blessed. Remember, Obed-Edom, it was his land where the Ark of Covenant was there for 3 months, and God 3 months, and God blessed him exceedingly, because his presence was there with Obed-Edom. That's when David went and took him from the Ark of Covenant from Obed-Edom to get him back to the city of David. So yeah, they mentioned him too. And him and his sons, they had positions of authority over the gatekeepers. And they spent time talking about the different responsibilities of the gatekeeper. Someone in charge of the entrance, even some of the treasurers, the gifts that were dedicated to the Lord. Remember, David, whenever they plundered all of the metals, the gold, silver, they would be dedicated to the Lord. Even his commanders, whatever they dedicated to the Lord. So any gifts, the treasuries and the dedicated gifts to the Lord were guarded as well by the gatekeepers. He had 1,700 capable men responsible for all matters related to God and to King. And those were the 1,700 capable men of on the west side of the Jordan River. That's where David and all the other tribes were. And then there was 2,700 sent to the east side of Jordan. And that's where, the Reubenites, the Gad and Manasseh, they were on the other side of Jordan River. And they were all responsible for all matters relating to God and the king. So it's interesting to see what they did, that things were actually going on. When we read the Bible, we hear a lot of stuff about God and the do's and the don'ts and how people reacted to certain things in life, but we never see where there were actually jobs that were dedicated or people were obligated to do certain positions. Like we hear about David, how he was king, and how he had his officials, and we hear about his warriors, but we don't really see the other little things that go on, like the importance of having the praise and worship leaders, the different Levites around Israel, people who can report to, and they were responsible for all things God and King related. And so, but I think about that and I'm like, so David put all these people in position to handle all things God and King related. How did the children of Israel get away from following God if those men were present, right? You can't make people, you just can't. But they were responsible for all things related to God and King. And then they talked about the troops. There were 12 troops of 12 armies of 24,000 troops each. And it talked about how each troops, the 24,000 troops in that one army, would you call it? They were assigned a month. So there were 12 months. There were 12 armies or 12 divisions. We say divisions, and each division had 24,000 troops. Is that right? So there were 12 divisions, 24,000 troops in each division, and each division had a month they were responsible for. So you know how when they talk about how the army got together and did this. So if you were due to serve in February and it was your division term, you were one of those that were called. And then and then he talked about the officials. David had people who were over certain things of his possessions. For instance, he had people over his treasuries. He had people over his farm workers, over his donkeys, over his camels. So it's good to see where the jobs were and how he had order. So that was pretty cool. It's pretty cool to see that everybody had a job and a responsibility. And then he finished off talking about who were his closest, like his overseers. Well, the overseers were the ones who were over the vineyards, the camels, the donkeys, and all that. But his officials, like the palace advisor, the royal advisors, he mentioned those people too, like his uncle, Ahithophel. Ahithophel, I think that's the one who turned on him to go with Absalom, right? Anyway, we read about that previously. I'm sure we're going to talk more about that. Talked about his friend Hushai, just a few of his officials who were in charge, like Joab, his commander, and all those. So, guys, I know there's probably a lot I didn't cover, and I tried to hit like the points. But you guys, read this for yourself, please. Again, this was day number 129. 1 Chronicles chapter 25 through 27. You have a God-filled blessed day.